Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to yet another conversation around Bharat's Suraksha, and also what we need to do to ensure that the future of Bharat also remains safe. And one of the biggest issues and that surrounds us even as these investigations unfold is the presence of white-collared radicals amongst us. Entities, people who hide in plain sight, live their lives usually. They don't engage in any kind of crime. But they are the ones who are masterminding, facilitating and ensuring that crimes happen. Not just crimes, but acts of terror happen. And they are those who never openly say that they don't believe in the tricolour, the idea of Bharat as we know it, and they have an ulterior motive, either working with a foreign power or driven by perhaps a faith and ideology that believes that it needs to supersede every other living civilization or culture and establish its rule here. And I mean Ghazwa-e-Hind. Now this is something which has been a bone of contention, conversation, and this is perhaps a continuation of where we last left it with Lt Gen Pandey, as usual with us. Namaste, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, sir. Now,
Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
More than about a decade ago, you had made a reference to these hybrid terrorists or white-collar terrorists. But now when we look at the details of what's happened in the 10-11 blasts and the modules emanating from Jammu and Kashmir, we see that these are people who are motivated in this direction since 2010. And they have been playing this long game. What motivates someone who's so highly educated, who's moving around in society, to continue to believe that this is not a society for them and this is a society that's out to get them?
Okay, I'll go little back. Firstly, this statement I had made somewhere when I was a co-commander, while I was to be internally in Army Circle, as you were talking about as GOC, somewhere in 2018-19 period. But very openly in the public domain, I started talking about white-collar terrorists. Essentially, I want to, when I used to speak to the people, to inform them the threat from within. Because you see, their children were being given weapon by those who were actually living amongst the so-called civilized people living amongst the population. And I used to tell them that you have to be careful about them. Don't look at only Anpad Gawar Maulvi. You need to look at those people who are sitting very, very apart, good business class people and all, who are actually playing with the mind of your children and doing all this. When you're speaking to a local population, then you have to speak Hindi, Hindustani or that local this thing. So Dahshatgard is a common word. And I used to always call them Safed Posh Dahshatgard. And then when I had to translate it to English, I couldn't find a better word, but then I came up with white collar terrorist. And that is how this whole got stuck. So this is a basic background. Going a little back from 2010, somewhere mid-90s or end 90s, when RR got raised and the government of India's hand started becoming heavy onto terrorist, but not terrorism. There are two things people don't understand. Terrorist is the one whom you kill, who carries a weapon, who's that low-end job worker moving through from here, who's caught with some sort of mobile or some content, and thereafter you put him behind the back. But the guys who run the ism part are the ones who are the most dangerous people, because you can take the law to punish. Very, very clear, because this chap is a terrorist, he's anti-national, it is very easy for law and order machinery to prove it, and therefore you're being able to take this thing. But those people who are batting on both sides, living amongst you, but actually batting for Pakistan or the cause of religion or ism, right? We don't target that. So the people who are running the show in Kashmir for not exactly separatism, but for getting them into Pakistan or stuff, they realize, and especially Jamaat-e-Islami realize, that it's very difficult for them till the time the evolved class of Kashmiri people who are quite cosmopolitan that point of time, if you look at the pictures of 70s, 80s,
correct,
pretty modern, there used to be cabarets in this thing, in Srinagar, and it will be very difficult to change. So
and
that
the
is
burqa
why.
and all was alien to Jammu Kashmir. Women were progressive, forward, maybe an abaya, hijab, but never a burqa, close your face, don't come into public. All of that was
People who live in a similar terrain have got similar dressing sense. Anybody who lives in mountains, if you go, like my wife is from this thing, they all wear scarf.
Yeah.
So I have seen in 80s women wearing scarf, not burqa, right?
Yeah.
And this shift is through radicalization, through a different thought process, right? So we'll not go on that. What they did was they started looking at how to breach this system in the bureaucracy, in the environment, so that you have educated people in position of power.
Right.
And then they started opening schools, nurturing people like Gilani, who were very, very powerful. Later on, they used to sign on the back of envelope. The jobs were given to people who had the viewpoints of that nature. So suddenly, the guys who were totally pro-India,
Right.
or very positive, or cosmopolitan, or revolved, they were not radical thought on hardline extremist religious ideology or towards Pak-focused ideology. They were edged out, removed overly over a period of time, or they retired. And then suddenly you had a new rung of people coming up. And all this started happening. So a lot of people say ki faculty, medical mein nahi hota, usme nahi hota. The faculty was selected in a manner that they had to have a viewpoint. So if you go to JNU, majority of the faculty will find is a left-leaning this thing. So what will they teach? How the numbers will come about? So eventually even the students will start leaning towards one set of an ideology. That is how you control the future of a country, right? And this was put in place. And so was in terms of contract, so was in terms of... So everybody who became rich had to have that ideology towards this. And of them, people got picked up to become the minders of Jammu and Kashmir in terms of looking at future, which is a radical future, extremist future, or a future which can be intelligently used to have foot soldiers to run the show and to die. But
Right.
these guys can continue to remain in a position of power, position of importance.
So is this Jammu and Kashmir narrative then, like, let's say an Umar Nabi, in whose name was he going to do a suicide attack? No, suicide is haram in Islam. So how is he justifying that if it was religion? If it was political, what was his issue? Jammu and Kashmir is totally fully integrated to Bharat. So what was he going to do by bombing Delhi? What is the thing? So is the Jammu and Kashmir narrative political, or is it a political facade, but it's actually cloaked in deep religious ideology or bigotry, which says that it should not be the only Muslim state in India. All other states need to be like Jammu and Kashmir, and Islam should prevail in India. So what is the thought process?
So, unfortunately, this lot, right, if you look at people who got who joined these institutions somewhere about 15 years back, and now they are in an age bracket of 30, 35, 40, are the ones who started moving from a separate state or independent state towards a religious ideology. Most of them, right? So political stuff, as you rightly said, continues to remain the remit or in the mind of the earlier generation. But the newer generation is more focused towards this. Got connected with the global war on terror. So a lot of people blame only Jammu and Kashmir, only what is happening, human rights violation, choking of thought, and there's a whole thing. The issue is there's no choking of thought 15 years back. There's a government of NC, PDP, joint government, that government, everything was there. It is 5 years that 2019 that UT is running the show there. Otherwise, majority of time of 30 years, people have gone for elections. This side, that side faulted. Very few people coming for voting. Everything is taken up on one side. But the fact is the government was always not only Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh region. It was Kashmir-centric. People are ruling entire Jammu Kashmir.
Yeah, it was the
Ladakh.
Sherwalas of Srinagar who were controlling the narrative.
They were controlling the narrative. So why should you start looking at only the political part? But change happened somewhere when the global war on terror started. There was a certain degree of pushback. People started exposing how Islam is being used. That issue which you said that no Muslim can be ruled by a non-Muslim, and that ideology started getting very fixed. While on one side they used victimhood, right, but on the other side they went on to polarizing and using religion as an ideological change. But this started happening in campuses, which nobody wants to believe it.
Why was the demographic cleansing of Hindus out of Kashmir if it happened? Why did it happen?
Yeah.
And this cleansing happened in the 50s also. When Baramulla was cleansed, Mirpur, Muzaffarabad was cleansed, all of these regions were cleansed out of Hindus. So if it is not a religious continuum, thought continuum, and it's purely political, then this should not have happened.
So there are three set of people who are using this 5 years, this thing. One is political dispensation, in which you'll have muftis and her daughter starting occulting that, and mind you, the language is same. So there was one very senior journalist who made a statement again, and this line I have heard, pressure cooker situation in last 5 years. So I have heard this before that 5 years, before that, and continues to remain. So my argument to her was that for 200 people from Kerala went to ISIs to fight. They were highly educated, evolved people.
Where is the pressure cooker in
Where was the pressure cooker? So if that, or is that a pressure cooker situation? So, and there is a high majority, they're living an empowered life, pretty rich, but they went out. So, so there's one set of people who are using for political purpose. Second set of people who actually believe, like the journalist, because they go through a chain of a very planned ecosystem.
Yeah.
When you land up there and you say, I'm from Wire, or I'm from Bloomberg, from the airport to the entire process, you will go only to hear that toolkit.
Yeah.
That toolkit has been there for about 35 to 40 years, and I've seen it so evidently. That language has not changed for last 30 years. So when she spoke for 5 or 10 minutes, she spoke exactly the same language which I have been hearing. Not for 5 years. I've been hearing for 30, 35 years, because I have been going there all my life, 7 years, and I have been engaged with Kashmir for nearly 10, 11 specific tenures. So 7 is in Kashmir and 3 outside. So, so this is one set. But the smarter set is totally for religious ideology.
Yeah.
Right? And that has started changing the color in Jammu and Kashmir, which we don't recognize. Time and again we are talking of opportunities, job and employment. The mind has shifted and changed. It is not for Jammu and Kashmir for independence or azadi or anything else. It is about religious
It's about Islam.
It's about Islam.
Islam.
Let me be candid.
So be it Shia, Sunnis, it doesn't matter.
Yes, it doesn't
but
matter.
it's also not that, do you see the Gujars and the Bakarwals and all of them, they're also Muslims. They don't seem to be getting this one. Are the Gaonwalas also equally so potent about the whole thing that it has to be Islam and only Islam?
Yeah, so this is the troubling part. What happens is that time and again, when I used to articulate in the public medium, and this is when we are not talking, the Gujar and Pahadis are not involved. So you know what happens? This conversation is heard by those people who need to now start targeting them. So as a GOC killer force and as for GOC 15 core, I reached out to the administration, and administration knows this is a very, very public thing. So I'm not breaking any official secret act part. क्या बोलते हैं? तबलीगी जमात. Now you imagine, will a South Indian like to come to North India in winters? No. So I don't want to name the valleys. There are a couple of valleys which are there in Kashmir. So those valleys take huge amount of snowfall. They get cut off, extremely cold. But now these Tablighi Jamaat used to go and sit in the summers to these areas. Now these areas they operate with army hugely, and so therefore the mindset is pretty multicultural, and they are not consigned to that
and they're
one
more
ideology.
nationalist. They identify with the tricolor. And
Correct, because they're moving also,
Yeah.
The language is slightly different. Unke khane pine ka, everything is quite different than technically from Kashmir Valley. So these people used to understand, and they don't want the women to be radicalized. They don't want the children to be radicalized. They want to continue to work as a great Indian. Bharat ke saath.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that somebody should not have faith and they should not propagate their faith. But are these Maulvis, and also there is data which has come out in the past which says that between 2008, 2009 to 2018, in about 10 years, 9 to 1100 mosques mushroomed everywhere.
Yeah.
And the Maulvis, people who are sitting on the mimbar there trying to be the voice of Allah and voice of the teachings, the Prophet and his teachings, are actually not Kashmiri.
They are not.
They are from other parts of the country, or maybe not from the country at all. Is this true?
It's true.
So how are these people getting such a khulla to go there and sit there and spew their gabble of venom? Because they are not teaching. They are using the congregation. They are using the sanctity, purity of namaz, of people coming together, which is a socialistic concept that people will pray together. Everybody is together in prayer. Now that happens in our temples also. Everybody is the same in temples. But from there to turn it around to beyond teachings to say only Islam and nothing else. You are in danger.
So
you have to protect. You have to do something.
I'll talk of timeline. Timeline, 2-3 things happen in this middle, lower part. The terrorists got totally controlled in numbers. Fence came up, Rashtriya Rifle fully functional. Global war on terror started. Pakistan was pushed this thing either with us or on the highway. So, the number of terrorists dropped very fast. Change in strategy. The change in strategy was, this is the time LA these movements started.
No, LA these.
Not LA, this is a time when they started breaching in. So now suddenly you go, and then youth also had mobiles, they started getting internet, education started flourishing. Now suddenly from stoppage of education in early 90s, you started schools getting opened up, large number of madrasas, large number of those schools which are run by Jamaat-e-Islami started coming up. And then the youth which was there, born in early 90, they were about now in the age bracket of 15, 18, 20, right? So one is they have seen the conflict, they have also seen the narrative of global war on terror. And what is happening? LA Hadith Mosque, if you go and see, beautiful, huge, marble laid out mosque next to a village mosque, which is dilapidated, easy, green in color, very orthodox, old type, looking type. Where do you like to go? I like to go to that modern one, glistening, shining, this thing. And that's a very great business enterprise, by the way. The money is now coming from where exactly from where. And this is my conversation happening with a very important top leadership, one of the top 3 in this thing. And he's feigning it to be very, very normal. That way. So when this started coming up, the youth started gravitating from normal 4 masjids of the village, a huge village, into this one central framework. And now there's a centralized narrative of a better Islam than what Jammu and Kashmir was following. So if you start looking at actually Jammu Kashmir, Kashmiri, the way they do azan, it is more like very, very different than what is given in the rest of the country. Now the shift started happening from the unique way of this thing to coming on. So there were a number of changes started happening. And that is the inflection point. You're absolutely right. Somewhere in late 2008, that is the time, if you recall, the protest started.
Yeah.
The stone pelting started. The government, the state government itself was complicit in allowing it to happen, and time and again used many incidents which happened, fake incidents. For example, you may remember the CRPF chefs are blamed to having raped 2 girls who were, the bodies were thrown inside, and they came to later on know that it was their jija or somebody.
And the doctors themselves were involved in it.
Correct.
Family
was involved, doctors were involved into faking it. वो सब कुछ आ गया, and suddenly the chief minister and all went to thing against the CRPF, and stone pelting happened, and stuff happened, and about 110 chaps died within a couple of months. So this all inflection events which came about, right, they happened together, and then they continued along the way, and this centered somewhere in central Kashmir and southern Kashmir, not in northern Kashmir. Because northern Kashmir has got a challenge. There are 2-3 challenges. One is, firstly, they saw the worst of terrorism actually came to their doorsteps. Because jungle, everything, their women got raped, this thing. And second is, they are slightly more evolved. In the sense of they're very, very, you can't touch my woman type. I'm not saying that others are not, but they are highly more protective about their izzat, so-called izzat or something. And somewhere the transition, having seen the worst made. So this breach of this extreme radicalization or religion did not happen to South Kashmir. It came on to South Kashmir, where the student body was much more, the youth is larger in number, and oh, by the way, people who are highly educated are also a larger number.
Let's now come to this ism activity. Okay, that person is educated, right? That person is a doctor, is a businessman, is someone, he is aware of reality around them. He is aware that Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, whoever it is in Bharat, Parsis, whoever is there in Bharat, they all have equal opportunity. There's no discrimination in an organization based on your religion. It's based on your narrative, in the merit. They are business people. Everybody is buying things from them. They are selling to everybody. They also see that Bharat is very inclusive. यहाँ पे मुसलमान खतरे में नहीं है, यहाँ पे कोई भी खतरे में नहीं है. यहाँ पे एक्चुअली मेजॉरिटी खतरे में है. जितने ज़्यादा एक्सोडस हुए हैं, सबसे ज़्यादा हिंदूज के ज़्यादा हुए हैं. संबल में ले लीजिए, यहाँ पर ले लीजिए, जम्मू कश्मीर में ले लीजिए, एवरीवेयर. It is the Hindus who are supposed to be majoritarian who are the most ostracized, and all the constitutional rules are also against the larger majority Hindu population. That's the overcompensation that's been done to make sure that everybody feels secure. Does this escape their intelligence, or do they not care?
They don't care. You see, again, this issue, the discussion there on GCTC thing was about campus to radicalization, when you shape the mind in campus, if you shape the mind of 1,000 people, when you're sending a narrative, all 1,000 don't become
correct
affected, right? But there are 100 who will. And from that 100, after about 5, 6, 10 years, some may still evolve and say, "Yeah, theek hai, dharam to theek hai, but I think we need to focus on our family and get on with life and not start believing Ummah is going to." Because, then suddenly when you look at Ummah as one, then you will find 57, 60 odd countries all following a particular religion, but they are all fractured.
And they're all fighting with each other.
They are all fighting with each other.
Yeah. So there is also something called Habbal Watan as a concept. Watan comes first. You have to have your loyalty to the country that you are born in.
But the guys who are teaching them, they are not teaching this. They are teaching them that okay, there's only one place to believe. But the leadership is providing a great example to them. Election se pehle, I will visit Dubai. I'll go to talk to Saudi Arabia. I'll look that side for ideological and political clearance and reference. The guys who are Shias will dial up to Iran and this thing. So when such kind things are being seen, then they know that Kashmiris are unique in ethnicity and culture. Right? We may talk of Kashmiriyat, but then that was old. Now that needs to get subsumed. We need to be all equal all across the world. But you're not able to see that even the Shias or Sunnis or whatever, they're all divided into this thing. And they all believe in their own Watan.
Yeah.
So Saudis believe in Watan, right? They have religion, of course, but they believe in Watan. But who's going to tell them? The politicians who are going to tell them, they don't get that advantage because they are competing with Jamaat Islami, they are competing with others. So they need to continue to speak. There's a guy from NC who is virtually peddling soft
separatism,
shaping of mind and stuff like that by talking and challenging his own political hierarchy, which unfortunately today that gentleman is so much of a mind that he can't do much about it. So he's openly challenging. And when you look at his own background, you'll start looking at why is he doing so? What are the compulsions, right? So this political leadership needs to actually be very clear and vocal. You just can't start going to shifting sand sometime on this side or sometime on that side and confuse a lot. So the youth which is there of 35, 40 years, they look at somebody who's not talking of one standard language, and that is for religion. And therefore he'll associate with religion.
We're going to pause here, viewers, because we've run out of time. But the ISM, out of terrorism, so you can attack terror and terrorists, but terrorism, which is now embedded because it's an ideological thrust, how do we break that? How do we counter that? What is it that's going to ensure that this doesn't happen and we don't have white-collared radicals or Safed-Posh Dehshatgards all around us? That's the next part of this conversation with Lt Gen Pandey here on CNN News 18 on The Right Perspective. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.